Chapter 57 of the Dragon Ball Super manga has come out, and I gotta say, it's another really solid chapter in the Moro arc, filled with really good action, a nice pace to it, and a good variety of things going on, with a couple of things that I was just a little bit disappointed on. But we're starting with the chapter with this really awesome front page of just showing everything that's going on, and I really appreciate that. It's all visual, there's nobody talking, muddling up the image with talk bubbles, you know. But Moro is looking down on the earth with Saganbo, and I gotta be honest here, for some reason I had thought that Moro was still off in space, like headed toward Earth. I didn't realize that he was on that ship where the convicts came from. I don't know why, but I thought it was really cool how Bulma, you know, sent out all these droids to surveil the fights that are going on. And Chi-Chi, a really nice moment with Chi-Chi, she's looking for her little boy Gohan in his fight, but then says Krillin, she's like, I don't want to watch the Krillin show, what the heck is this? But we're getting into a large focus of this chapter, which is Krillin. And if you saw my leaks review, you know that I was a little bit disappointed because it seemed like they weren't going to give Krillin the win. Well, I gotta say, I'm very, very satisfied with the conclusion of this fight. And it's not without struggle, too. Like, Krillin is having a hard time with Panda Guy. And he is, you know, he pushes himself, and through his strategy and power, he ends up winning. So he's throwing all these Destructo Discs, which of course reminded me of the Dragon Ball Super anime where he does that against Goku, and it's a really nice callback in the anime actually when Goku does the same thing against Jiren to try to get one up on him. But yeah, Panda Dude's just kicking the crap out of Krillin. I love this part especially when Panda punches him down to the ground, and then Krillin's hand, all you see is his hand. Like, this is really good, like, visual stuff here without any dialogue. You know, if you were gonna have a lot of dialogue, they would just be explaining everything that happens, which had a tendency to happen a lot in the Tournament of Power. But I love how Krillin's hand just comes up and he flicks his hand, and then you see the Panda Guy's reaction, and it's the Destructo Disc, and it just grazes his cheek. I would have actually liked it if it cut him in half, but then that's just my morbid self. It ends up that the Destructo Discs aren't really working, and the Panda Guy actually does a Frieza on Krillin, guiding the Destructo Discs toward Krillin, but what happens? They go straight through him. This image is awesome because it shows Krillin's surprise, so you're like, oh no, what's he gonna do? But then it's, I mean, obviously when you see this image, it's passing right through him, so you as an audience member knows what's exactly happening, but the Panda Dude doesn't know anything about Krillin's fighting style or the Earthling's after image technique. So he has no idea what's going on, and then boom, Krillin with the freaking Kamehameha in the freaking face. He's like, that's the after image move, bitch. Boom, and then he freaking wins. Oh god, I love this so much. I'm so happy that Krillin got a win, man. Because, you know, what would you expect when Krillin goes in a fight? You expect him to lose. But I really like how this chapter gives all the characters like their own villains, kind of, so to speak, because I mean that's a natural thing that they should do with all these convicts, like this convict army. You got your lower tier guys, then you got your lieutenants and stronger tier guys, which we'll get into in the later parts of the chapter, especially with Saganbo. But I'm loving how they actually had Krillin win this. So the Galactic Patrol dudes take Panda Dude away, and Roshi seems to be having some trouble. See, from the leaks, it seems like Roshi wasn't having very much trouble, and Krillin was. But now Krillin is actually going to Roshi's aid, which I really like. And Roshi's like, oh man, I can't, like, these girls won't even let me grope them. I mean, my attacks aren't hitting. God, what a freaking little pervert, man. But I love this shot of these chicks coming out of the woods, and they're so mad at him because he's such a freaking pervert. And Krillin says something very interesting. He's like, why don't you showcase the power you showed against Jiren? And I'm like, yeah, why don't you? Like, why don't you just do that all the time. So he actually explains it, which I do appreciate. He has to clear his mind, which is kind of obvious. You know, that's kind of like a ultra instinct thing, and Roshi has like this pseudo ultra instinct apparently. And apparently he couldn't help out before at any other given moment with this. Maybe it's just something new that he's developed or something. But regardless of that, I'm really liking how this is playing out. But speaking of the pace of this chapter, I'm glad we don't have this giant chunk focusing only on this. We cut away to Tien, and we finally get the opportunity to have some Tien action. Now, from the leaks, I was very, very disappointed with the conclusion of this, but seeing it all executed, I'm not nearly as disappointed. I am disappointed in the fact that Tien doesn't really get this epic battle, which is what I want. I want an epic battle with Tien. But this whole battle is kind of played for comedic effect, which actually played for the strengths of this chapter, I think, because it showed a little bit more like this is a funny chapter. Compared to a lot of other chapters which are just like, oh man, like these guys are down in the dumps. Last chapter was like the hype chapter. This is the comedy chapter. So they end up finding out from this Galactic Patrolman that this guy's a metal man, which reminds Tien of Magetta from Universe 6. And I'm wondering, how does Tien know about Magetta from Universe 6? Like, who told him that? He doesn't have a cell phone, so he hasn't been really in contact with the other heroes, and the only people that would have told him about it are like Piccolo, Vegeta, and Goku, unless they talked to somebody who talked to somebody else who ended up talking to Tien. So it was a little bit strange to me how Tien like knows about Magetta, much less his actual weakness. But whatever, he probably just heard it through the grapevine. So it's kind of a cool fight. I would have really loved to actually see an actual fight here as opposed to this entire fight playing up for some sort of comedic purpose. So Tien goes in and he tries to insult him. And he calls him a rockhead and a half-ton tubby. So essentially he's calling him stupid, and he's calling him fat. But the most hilarious thing about this is that everybody's like arguing the logic of his insult. Like, dude, his head is way harder than rock, dude. He's a metal man. And then the people on the lookout are like, 1,000 pounds? Like that, a half a ton is only 1,000 pounds, dude. He weighs way more than that. That was so funny. But at the same time, I'm thinking, okay, well, wouldn't a metal man like pride himself on how hard and heavy his body is? So that would be a good insult to call him a rockhead and a half-ton tubby. He's calling him fat, and he's calling him stupid, and he's insulting the weight and hardness of his body. So I don't really know why that insult didn't work, but it is all in the service of giving Chiaotzu the win, which, if you're gonna go this comedic direction with this fight, this is, I actually kind of love this, because Chiaotzu, nobody thought that Chiaotzu would do anything. Like, this is a surprise, and I really do like that Chiaotzu gets the win. Plus, we do have some more opportunity for Tien to get some badass action in the future, so I'm not nearly as disappointed in it as I was when I saw the leaks. So Chiaotzu calls him a half-wit and a hunk of scrap metal, and that works. And I'm like, seriously? That, calling him half-witted. So first of all, Tien already called him stupid, so Chiaotzu's calling him stupid here. And then Chiaotzu calls him a hunk of scrap metal, which I can definitely see how that's an insult, but why wasn't half-ton tubby an insult? I see what they're doing here, but it just didn't completely work for me. It was still entertaining and funny nonetheless. And then Chiaotzu says, "Hey, you suck at insulting people, Tien." I really like that funny dynamic that they had there. But yeah, I mean, I don't see why Tien's insults didn't work. So anyway, we cut back to Roshi and Krillin, and Roshi has garnered a blindfold so that he can focus and not get distracted by these bibs. And it is working so well that they inexplicably decide to fuse. And not only that, but Oolong, like the way we find out that they fuse is Oolong's reaction. And I am glad to see Oolong again and having some actual dialogue in the show. It's good stuff. I actually kind of liked how this is revealed, how they fuse, and then boom, we see this big giant hunk of woman, all woman, baby. So she just starts to wreck the crap out of him. Boom, just punching Krillin's gut. Like his whole body is as big as her boob. And then she kicks Roshi and he's as big as her freaking shin, and we don't find out what happens till a little bit later as we cut to Moro finally deciding to go down to Earth from the spaceship. And I don't know, I think I would have liked it better if he was actually out in space, because then there's the question in my mind as to why Moro decided to wait. Like, why didn't he just suck the life energy from everyone on Earth and the Earth itself from the get-go? Because if he lets Moro's army just rampage through the Earth and kill a bunch of people, especially if he kills like Gohan, that's a huge well of energy for him to eat. So you know, you would think that he wouldn't want to waste that food. So anyway, he's just a typical bad guy, so he likes to see the suffering or whatever, I guess. But we cut away to 17 fighting 7-3, and now here's another little nitpick that I have about this chapter, is that 7-3 had copied Gohan, so therefore, and Gohan is stronger than 17, so I don't really see how 17 is beating 7-3 at this point. But I'm just gonna say in my own head that 7-3's body is just so beat up from Piccolo and Gohan's fight against him that his body is just not reacting at full capacity and can't harness the full power of Gohan. But however short the fight is, it is pretty badass, though I do feel like it's a little anticlimactic. You know, you have just a little bit of focus on it. 17 basically beats 7-3, and then that's kind of the end of it. And then Moro catches him. Now this is another image from the leaks that really disappointed me, because it looked like, since we didn't have the context of the next page, it looked like Moro might be killing 7-3 because he doesn't need him anymore. And everybody's surprised that Moro's there, but he's like, you know, I might need your power in a little bit. So I'm very glad that Moro didn't kill yet another one of his underlings and just be a stereotypical bad guy. But this leaves open for some really satisfying conclusions to 7-3's thing and his whole dynamic between Gohan and Piccolo and himself. So I'm looking forward to where they go with that. You know, why would they build this up and leave this guy alive if they're not going to utilize him in the future? And now Saganbo, this is Saganbo's time now. This dude, oh my god. Moro gives him a little bit more of his energy, and boom, like the good guys, I'm sorry, you're effed. You're freaking effed. And he just freaking bulks up. He's got this freaking hairy chest like freaking Chuck Norris or something. And he just charges in, punches 17, and then 18 goes in behind 17 to try to slow him down. Gohan, Piccolo, and even Jocko jump into the mix, and they just can't even stop this guy. This panel right here of everybody trying to push him back really reminded me of the Superman versus Doomsday fight. There was a cover image of everybody just trying to stop Doomsday, and it just wasn't happening, and you see the freaking struggle on everybody's face. This is so badass. And he grabs their head, spins them around. I love the interesting things that they do during the fights. It's not just punches and kicks and boring stuff. There's some interesting choreography, and they actually do some interesting hits, and he just slams their faces right into the ground. This is awesome, guys. Like, but as a tribute to the pacing of this arc, we're left at this cliffhanger of, oh my god, how are they gonna freaking stop this guy? I'm thinking Goku's gonna be the one to stop him, but I hope not. Though I don't see how else they could do it, really. So we get back to Tien and Chiaotzu and Yamcha. Finally, we get to Yamcha, and he's having a struggle with this guy. Now, this is something I'm really hyped for. A Yamcha and Tien team up against one of Moro's, like, advisors, he calls himself. I'd rather call them lieutenants because it makes them sound like they're more powerful, you know. But geez, this chapter is a really good mix. It does a really good job of foreshadowing other things to come, like some more stuff with 7th. Sorry, my daughter's in the background playing, so if you can hear that through the microphone. But it's doing a really good job of setting things up, potential things to come with these characters, and a freaking Tien and Yamcha team up, that's gonna be amazing. But finally cutting back to Roshi and Krillin against the behemoth woman Amazon warrior, they have resorted to hiding behind rocks as they are completely outmatched by her. And Krillin resorts to his last resort and his last and most powerful technique of calling Goku to their aid. And really cool a conclusion to this chapter of Goku, and I love this page, by the way, of showing Gohan, Tien, and the struggles of Earth, and Goku can finally sense them and instantaneously moves there, with Krillin powering up, and the lead up of this fused warrior, which we have no explanation of how the hell she fused. Maybe next chapter, but probably not. I guess anybody can just fuse just because. You don't need to know a dance. You don't need to have earrings to do it. You can just fuse if you are 3 women. So, Goku shows up in the nick of time, punches her, and then boom, badass shot of Goku. Now, tell me this, did this remind you more of the Saiyan saga or the Namek saga when Goku showed up to save the day and Krillin's all happy to see him and he's like, hey, Krillin, sorry, I have a habit of showing up late. Yes, you do, Goku. Thank you for acknowledging that a little bit of fourth wall breakage. So, anyway, really cool ending to the chapter, I think, and I love this image of Goku. It actually looks really familiar. Where have I seen this pose before? Has Goku with the wind blowing his tunic? Was this the same pose he used before they started fighting Moro? I don't know. If you know, let me know in the comments below. I did not mean for this review to be so long, but there's a lot of stuff to talk about. There's a lot of stuff that happens in the chapter. It's paced really well. And the fights, it's got a really nice mix of action and especially comedy with Tien and other things. So what did you all think of the chapter? I think it was really solid. Drop your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, thank you very much for watching. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channels that cover the manga every single month. And as always, take it easy.